Hello everyone, and welcome to the weird, scary and horrible parts of humanity. Today we are looking at one of the most controversial executions of a Filipina overseas, which divided the country and severely severed relationships between the Philippines and Singapore, the execution of Flor Contemplacion. Flor Contemplacion was born on the 7th of January 1953 in San Pablo in the province of Laguna, which has a population of 266,068 people as of 2015. By 1989 she was married and had 4 children, a 15-year-old son named Sandres, an 11-year-old daughter named Russell, and 2 9-year-old twin boys named Joel and Junjun. They all lived in a one-room home in San Pablo. She left the Philippines in 1989 to work as a domestic employee in Singapore in order to support the education of her 4 children. At the time, Singapore had an estimated 75,000 Filipinos working there. On the 4th of May 1991, Filipino domestic worker Della Mamaril Maga, who was born on the 6th of October 1955 in Tarlac, central Luzon, was found strangled to death in Singapore. Additionally, 3-year-old Nicholas Huang, for who Maga was caring, was found drowned. The police checked Maga's diary and found out about Contemplacion, who was interrogated by police. Contemplacion confessed to the killings of Maga and Huang, with the Embassy of the Philippines judging her confession to be credible and to have been gained in adherence to Singaporean law. She was held at the Changi Women's Prison and Drug Rehabilitation Centre. The bizarre trial introduced no medical evidence, and witness Evangeline Parale, who had shared a cell with Contemplacion, noted that Huang had accidentally drowned due to an epileptic fit, and Huang's father had killed Maga. Contemplacion also told Parale that she was tortured into her confession. Additionally, Filipina domestic worker Virginia Palmong, who had shared a cell with Contemplacion, having been arrested on the 25th of June 1992 for prostitution, having charged 100 Singaporean dollars or $70 US per sexual encounter, stated that she was informed that Maga immediately informed her male employer after Huang had died from an epileptic fit, who returned and then strangled Maga in retaliation. Huang's father then called the police and implicated Contemplacion. The claims were seen as fabrication by the Singaporean Home Affairs Ministry, and Contemplacion was sentenced to death. Following an appeal, the defence introduced medical evidence that Contemplacion was suffering a partial complex seizure, an unusual form of epilepsy at the time of the killings, while the prosecution determined that Contemplacion merely suffered from a mild migraine on the day of the murders. The defence's evidence was rejected. Receiving minimal support from the Embassy of the Philippines in Singapore and no representative of the embassy present at her trial, Contemplacion's appeal against her death sentence was rejected. Visited by her children, now aged 21, 17, and the 2 twins aged 15 who had not seen their mother since 1989, their father, Efren, did not visit Changi Prison as he could not bear to see his wife after 7 years. On the 14th of March, Contemplacion was informed that her execution would take place in 3 days. Despite appeals for clemency from the President of the Philippines, Fidel Ramos, Contemplacion was executed on the 17th of March 1995 at the Changi Women's Prison and Drug Rehabilitation Centre. Her execution significantly strained relationships between the 2 countries for several years. The Philippines ambassador to Singapore, Alicia C. Ramos, was recalled to Manila and bilateral exchanges were cancelled. Hundreds of Filipina maids returned to their home country from Singapore for fear of their own safety and were given tickets home by the Embassy of the Philippines. On the 19th of March, Contemplacion's corpse was returned to the Philippines, with her body met by the First Lady of the Philippines, Amelita Ramos. Her body was carried from Manila Airport in a white open coffin to her home in San Pablo, with thousands of Filipinos lining the route. More than 5,000 flocked to her house to try and catch a glimpse of Contemplacion's coffin. Roman Catholic Bishop Teodoro Bacani held a requiem mass in San Pablo's central cathedral and told the crowd she is a symbol of millions of Filipinos driven by poverty to take their chances abroad. Their lot is pathetic and their own government neglects them. President Ramos sent a wreath to Contemplacion's wake and offered financial assistance to her children, pledging 1 month of his salary to a scholarship fund to support them. Many Filipinos believe that Contemplacion was innocent or insane and should not have been executed, with the Alex Boncayo Brigade, the urban assassination unit of the New People's Army, which is the armed wing of the Communist Party of the Philippines, threatening to punish Singaporean and Filipino officials, and bishops of the Philippines Catholic Church condemning the execution. Several protests occurred throughout the country, organised by politicians and labour organisations, most infamously Davao City Mayor and current President of the Philippines, Rodrigo Duterte, who burnt a flag of Singapore while leading 1,000 employees of Davao City in protest. In anger at the fact that the Philippines Embassy of Singapore had not adequately represented Contemplacion during her trial, the Philippine Secretary of Foreign Affairs Roberto Romulo and Secretary of Labour and Employment Neves Confessor both resigned. President Ramos set up an inquiry and exhumed Maga's remains to determine how she had died. Her widow, Conrado Maga, complained that they had never seen the autopsy report of his wife. The new inquiry concluded that Maga had indeed been strangled and that Contemplacion was probably guilty. However, this was widely rejected in the Philippines. In 1995, the film The Flor Contemplacion story was released, with Nora Aunor playing Contemplacion. The film won multiple awards, both in the Philippines and overseas, most prominently at the 1995 Cairo International Film Festival, with Aunor winning the Princess Pataten statue for Best Actress and director Joel Lamangan winning the Golden Pyramid. Sadly, the Contemplacion family faced a difficult life following the execution of their mother and wife, and turned to crime, with all of her sons currently behind bars. In 2011, her 3 sons were sentenced to life in prison in San Pablo for selling drugs, having been arrested by city police and anti-drug agents in Barangay Village in San Pablo City on the 20th of October 2005. They were also ordered to pay a fine of 500,000 pesos, or approximately $10,000. The 3 boys ended up selling drugs due to their financial difficulties. Her widow, Efren, and his live-in partner, Violeta, were also arrested for selling drugs in 2008. Russell Contemplacion, Contemplacion's only daughter, ended up working in the office of former Speaker to the House of Representatives of the Philippines, Jose de Venecia Jr., and became proactive in saving the lives of other Filipino citizens facing the death penalty overseas. She also appeared in an episode of the popular TV drama show Magpakalinman in 2013 in the episode Life After the Death of Flor Contemplacion, the Russell Contemplacion story. Thank you for watching. Please do yourself a favour and hit that like and subscribe button and the bell icon to inform you when new videos come out. It helps more than you know and your support is truly appreciated. You'll also be seeing 2 other videos for you to check out. Until next time, stay awesome, stay classy, be kind to everyone you meet, and have an amazing day.